Hey, welcome back to Taco Tuesday. I mean Trout Tuesday. Wait, sorry, this is Fly Tying Tuesday. That's right. We are back here at AvidMax. My name is Travis Hanson with Chasing Tail Jigs. And in the vise for you, we have a articulated streamer I've been working on. Calling it the Dungeness Sculp-Buster. It's a mix of a sex dungeon paired with a Sculp-Buster, paired with a sculpin. It's got all the things to imitate a bait fish or a leech or a sculpin. Really anything that pike, bass, trout, all those things love to eat, and it's sure to get demolished. So let's show you how to tie one up. In the vise I have white, but we will be doing kind of more of a trout color with olive on the top and a white belly. I tie this in white and red for pike, olive for trout, black. You can really kind of go crazy with the colors and do whatever you feel fit for your area. Starting off in the vise, I'm going to go ahead and put a size 6 Gamakatsu B10S. This is going to be our trailer hook. My thread is going to be UTC 140 in white. Go ahead and start about an eye or two length away from the hook or from the eye. Trim off your tag end. Go ahead and wrap down the shank towards the curve. We don't want to go down the curve on this portion of the pattern, so we're going to stop right before the barb on this hook. I'm going to grab some barred rabbit zonkers in olive. Pick those up at AvidMax. I'm going to hang off the hook point about that much. The rear hook of this pattern is the movement in and of itself, and we don't want a super long tail that's going to get barred up. I'm actually going to move that down just a smidge. About right there. Go ahead and part your rabbit zonkers where you want to tie it in at. Place it on top of your hook. It does help if you wet your rabbit zonkers just a little bit. Do one pinch wrap, 2 pinch wraps, and one more good locking pinch wrap. For your thread, you really just want something that is strong enough to really lock down all these materials. Doesn't have to be super strong, but you definitely don't want these materials pulling out. So we're going to go in with some large Badger Flexi Squishenille in UV white, number 375, BFSQL 375 to be exact. This is a new synthetic pattern from Hareline. It's pretty cool to work with. It's got a lot of stimulating rubber legs, and I really like the profile that it creates. So you're going to go ahead and secure that just behind your rabbit zonker. After pulling it backwards, go back up to your tie-in point, and we want to go ahead and palmer this forward. So I'm kind of taking these rubber legs, pruning them back as I wrap forward to keep from them getting too trapped. Sometimes you will pull your thread back to you on accident. Just work it back forward. Keep on palmering that material back up the hook shank. This is a really fun pattern to fish. It's a really fun pattern to tie. I prefer to run this on some sort of sink tip or intermediate sink line. Just it kind of depends on whether you're fishing deep pools, whether you're fishing a lake, whether you're fishing small creeks, you know, kind of determine what fits your purpose for it. We are going to weight the front quite a bit with both a tungsten bead and some lead wire wraps. Go ahead and trim that off. I'm going to go ahead and take this forward. You want to leave yourself a good bit of space behind the eye because we're going to go ahead and add some rubber legs to this before we finish it off. Go ahead and figure out where you need to part that right at the end of your chenille that you just tied on. Sometimes I'll take my bodkin and you can sneak under, pull this forward, and you get a really nice clean part. And you can go ahead and wet this and go ahead and tie it off. You want to make sure you keep this as much on the top of the hook shank as possible. Make sure that's good. Pull this forward. A couple wraps in front. And then we can go ahead and cut this off. You want to get this as clean as you can. And then before we add those rubber legs, we are going to smooth that head out just a bit, but we don't want to add too much bulk. So go back to there. The rubber legs I'm going to add on this are going to be a pink and chrome barred silly legs. You can also find those here at AvidMax. Just going to take one on each side of the hook. So I'm going to take two. I'll take this, try to find the middle roughly. You can just kind of sneak this around your thread and bring it around to your side of the hook. Go ahead and secure that. Be careful with your thread wraps here as you don't want to cut these legs. You'll take these two, bring them over the top. And then we want to go ahead and make ourselves a nice looking head here. Okay, should be good. Go ahead and whip finish. Do one more. And then before we take this out, we are going to cover that thread in UV resin just to make it really nice and durable. Again, I'm using my favorite UV resin, Solaris Bone Dry. Give that a nice coating around the head. Really love this UV resin because it's super thin and it's got a really nice application to it with the brush. And it's just a really nice way to make your flies look more durable, or look better and be a lot more durable. Then you don't have to wait for it to dry as long as you do a super glue, which is also nice. We'll trim these legs to length later, so we'll worry about that in a second. Go ahead and take this out, put it to the side. The front hook is going to be a size 2 Gamakatsu B10S. Go ahead and readjust your vise for that bigger hook. Make sure it's nice and secure in there for this part of it. Okay. Then we're going to take some 0.015 lead-free wire from Hareline. We're going to sneak this behind the bead. About 15 to 16 wraps, enough to stick out of the bead, out of the cone just a little bit. And for the sake of the video, I have already one prepped, because you have to let the super glue dry. Part of the reason I like to do this is to help secure the cone in place and so it's not spinning all over. I'm going to take a nice glob of some gel super glue. You can work this up. Make sure it's nice and straight, and then you let that dry. So I'm going to go ahead and set that to the side and grab the one that I already have ready. I'm going to go back with that white 140. Build up a nice thread base. I want to go ahead and build up a nice ramp here leading to this wire. Nice taper so we don't have a lump in our body. Go ahead and cover some of these with thread wraps. Then we can work our way down to the bend of the hook. With this attaching the second hook, I do like to go down the bend just a little bit on this pattern, and that's just to keep it from fouling or help prevent it from fouling. So we'll go just a couple wraps down the bend. We're going to grab our Sinyo's intruder wire or whatever kind of attachment you like to use for articulated streamers, and work back up to where you tied in that lead wire, and go ahead and attach this. You want this on the top of the hook, but not necessarily right in the middle, because we're gonna run this back up against it on the far side of the hook in a moment after we get our trailer hook attached. So going back down towards the bend, I've got some glass killer caddis beads in kind of like a goldish bronze and a red that we're going to use in conjunction with each other. I'm going to get 2 red, 2 of this brownish goldish color. We're going to start with a red. I'm going to put on a bronze, go red, and then end with a bronze one. Then we're gonna take this fancy little hook that you could almost just fish as is that we just made. We're gonna run it right through the eye. Let's see here, I'm gonna put that through the eye. And then you want to take your wire and go back through the beads. This is a part that's easy to forget if you're not paying attention. And that's about what you should be looking like right now. So we're going to come in with a loose wrap or 2. Maybe 3 right here on this wire, and this is going to allow us to pull it into place and figure out where we need it. You don't want it too tight, but you don't want it too loose either. So check your movement here, make sure you're going to have good movement. That looks about good. We're going to go ahead and wrap this back up the shank right next to the wire we just laid in. And then you're gonna fold this over and secure it again and wrap down the shank quite a bit just to make sure that this doesn't pull out. So that's kind of what you should be looking like right now. Go about halfway down the shank or so. And do not use your nice fly tying scissors for this. So I like to use just some nail clippers, so I'm not ruining my scissors, because if you use your nice scissors for this, you won't do more than 1 or 2 flies before you're back here at AvidMax buying more. Okay. And then you want to be careful with your thread wraps covering that up, because that sharp edge is likely to chop your thread if you put too much pressure over it. You want to go ahead and cover this up. Cover up this lump. Cover up the wire up here. And then we're going to go through and just put some UV resin over the top of this, just to keep that wire in place. Let that UV resin seep into that thread, into that wire. And this is going to make sure we have a nice durable back hook that's not going to pull out when we set into a 35-inch brown trout with a hook jaw. Because that's what you're going to catch if you fish this pattern. I hope. At least in my dreams I am. Alright. Go ahead and wrap back down the hook to where we tied in those beads. I like to cut a diagonal in my rabbit zonkers on the end that's going off of the tail. I think it just helps it look a little bit more natural and it flows through the water a little bit better. So got a nice little taper to my rabbit zonker there. This one we do not want to hang off of the hook too much because the leather strip on the bottom will impede the movement of the hook behind it. So we're just going to peel off a small little strip there, just a little bit, pretty much about the size of that taper that we put in there. Go ahead and lay that over the top of your hook. You can wet your rabbit. Give it a pinch wrap. Another pinch wrap. And a securing wrap. And check that, make sure that looks good. Pull your rabbit zonker backwards and get ready to repeat the process. So again, taking that Squishenille from Hareline, tying it onto the bend of the hook, and wrapping back up towards the bend. Now we do want to leave ourselves room for the collar and the silly legs. So I think that should be about good. Again, taking your Squishenille and palmering this up the hook. Once we get to there, go ahead and tie this off. It's going to look a little crazy for a second, so don't worry about it. Trust the process. Okay. You can go through and trim up some of those if you like. I'm going to go ahead and take this rabbit zonker back forward. Alright, so now we're ready to add those silly legs. Again, adding 2 to each side of the fly. Take this, wrap it around, bring it forward, make sure it's roughly split in the middle. Go ahead and secure the side near you, wrap it over the top of the hook, and secure the far side. Now we're going to add a dubbing loop for our collar. You can get some of these out of the way. Careful not to cut your thread, as that would be very devastating. Go ahead and get a good amount of thread out for your dubbing loop. Go ahead and secure that dubbing loop off. Oop. Got a little bit of a silly leg that's trying to sneak its way in there. You add that dubbing loop, secure it into your material clip. Then we're going to go ahead and half hitch a couple times. We can set this here. Then we are going to take our Rabbit Zonkers crosscut olive. The cone I have on this, in case you guys are wondering, is going to be a River Spirit or something like that, cone and large, whatever it is. It's a large hothead pink cone. I forget the exact brand. I just choose whatever brand is available. I'm not very brand particular, unless one of you guys want to sponsor me. Until then, I just use what's available. We want to get a good amount of this cross cut in here, and if we have to do 2 dubbing loops, that's perfectly fine. We want to make sure we have a nice nice thick collar that's going to push that water around as it's getting stripped through the water. So I'm going to attach that in my material clip, and I'm going to cut away that hide. Okay. Go ahead and take your dubbing loop. Go ahead and insert this in there. And kind of spread this out a little bit. With your finger. Kind of use your material clip to make sure those edges are straight. Like that. Get your dubbing twister. Make sure you have it ready for yourself so you don't get in a predicament. Go ahead and spin up that cross cut. You can actually take this off for the time being because we're not going to use our rotary. We want to make sure and palmer this. And just start palmering this forward. We really want to pack this behind the bead. So if we need to make another dubbing loop, which I usually have to do 2 on this pattern, that's perfectly fine. Okay. Go ahead and make our second dubbing loop. So don't freak out if you don't have enough your first time. Bring that there. Go back to our cross cut. Grab ourselves another section. That should be good. Go ahead and insert that back into your material clip. Go ahead and trim away that hide. Grab your loop, insert your rabbit. Spread that out again. I like to use this as a straight edge. Kind of get this where you want it. On this final dubbing loop, I do like to go through with a dubbing brush. You don't want to pick out too much of those fibers, but just get them look a little bit nicer. We're going to go ahead, palmer the second dubbing loop, pack it up beneath that cone, really kind of get it to flare out, push a lot of water, really kick sideways. Boom. Okay, go ahead and secure that dubbing loop with a couple securing wraps and trim that off. Now we're ready to whip finish this fly and trim our legs. I know it's been a long one, guys, but it's a fun one to tie and it's an even funner one to fish. I'm gonna go through with my bigger whip finish actually to get around that cone. This is a Loon Ergo whip finisher. Okay, that's good. We're gonna go ahead and trim that off. I'm gonna take these legs. The first pair is gonna go about halfway down that second hook. You don't want to pull your legs too much because then they'll shrink up on you. Just pull them straight. Go roughly about halfway down. Then we're going to take our back pair of legs. We're going to trim those pretty much just a little bit shorter than the tail. So we're going to take these, hold these straight. This one can be a little bit hard to work with. Go just a little bit shorter than the tail. So there we have it. The Indigenous Sculp-Buster. You can fish this in lakes, rivers, really anywhere. Intermediate sink to a sink tip, whatever you like, depending on your situation. I hope you have fun and go ahead and tie one up. Thanks.